I'm Elwirfy, and today we're making a video that honestly I didn't want to have to make, but as soon as I saw this video, I knew I just had to. So this is me kind of reacting to Penguin Zero's, or Charlie's reaction to this TwitchCon injury, and as someone who is unfortunately able to relate with the injury itself, I felt compelled to talk about it and go over it. So let's just get into it.
Now, since the Lenovo Intel booth at TwitchCon nearly claimed the soul of a streamer due to an improperly set up foam pit, I'll give you the quick breakdown on the lore if you're not up to speed. Twitch streamer named Adriana Chechik was partaking in a fun booth at TwitchCon set up by Lenovo and Intel, where you push each other off a pedestal into a foam pit.
Okay, that already seems like a bad idea. Just like straight up without even if you don't know what's going on. As soon as I heard this, I knew this was bad. Like up front, as soon as I don't know, it's just,
Sure, it's something we've all done before. However, after Adriana Chechik won, she jumped into the foam pit, only to realize that it wasn't a foam pit, it was a foam kiddie pool, like something out of backyard wrestling. In fact, it wasn't even as deep as a kiddie pool, it was more like a foam flatbread, and it was just over cement.
Okay, so obviously, having proper safety precautions should be required. You'd think that whoever inspects these events would have had some amount of self-awareness to, make sure that there's enough thickness of foam to make sure that when you jump off, you aren't getting injured. And it's interesting that nobody else has been injured, so that tells me that this also wasn't tested after wear and tear. It's possible they could have tested it after a single use, but maybe not after repeated uses if the foam kind of spreads out a bit. It's possible there could have been gaps. So in general, very poor safety quality management in general.
Which is a goddamn violation of the Geneva Convention. Like, that is just an actual death trap. That is more deadly than the pit of snakes Indiana Jones falls into. It was only 2 layers of foam blocks, basically, over cement. And as I understand it, the normal protocol is, instead of cement, you put, like, foam padding down or a cushion, like a mat. So that way it absorbs some of that impact for a situation like this.
Yeah, and, because of my own medical injuries and stuff, I actually can't use a trampoline anymore. Like, there's this cool place where I live called Trampoline Nation where you can bounce around and stuff. But due to my own injuries, which we'll get into later in the video, I can't do certain activities like that anymore. And it's because of, for me anyway, the lack of safety precautions that comes from kind of these areas where safety protocol isn't very good. Like, for me, bouncing on a trampoline, if I land the wrong way, it could be very, very bad. And the same kind of precautions that you would want to take in a trampoline setting, you would hope they would have at least taken at TwitchCon, but obviously they did not.
And obviously it's supposed to be deeper than, like, fucking 1 finger deep. Like, it wasn't deep. I'm exaggerating, but it only went up to most people's knees, if that. So it wasn't deep enough at all for this event. Because you're pushing people off of this pedestal, they're going to fall with some force behind it. You need the foam to be a bit deeper than that.
That's pretty self-explanatory, right? Not much else I need to say about this section, but just that's the point. You need to be safe,
Here, they didn't do that, so when she jumped in, she hit her tailbone directly on the floor and shattered her back in 2 places, and now she's needed a very serious surgery. Took over 5 hours, multiple bone fusions, and the insertion of a rod into her spine for stability. Like, it is a very serious and life-changing injury that she's going to be battling with for the rest of her life.
Exactly. So this was the main crux of the video here. I wanted to cover the injury portion, how it was injured. That way we get context for all of you. But here's the main point of the video, right? And I don't even need to necessarily go through the whole video. Getting a metal rod put in your body is one of the most excruciating recovery processes I'd argue that you could face. Because you have to understand that, while sure, during the surgery you're put under, that all goes fine. But afterwards, when you wake up, like for the first week when I was in the hospital, I couldn't even get up. I didn't even want to move. I felt like I was stuck to the bed. Like, I literally could not get up. And that sucks, because I really wanted to be able to get up and do things and whatnot. But, I just couldn't. I was so exhausted from the surgery that first week that I honestly thought I was going to die. Obviously I wasn't, but in my head I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I can't, how can I keep going on like this? I was just in absolute agony. I'm going to play a little more.
It is a permanent injury, all due to negligence from Lenovo and Intel when setting up this booth because they didn't feel like actually setting up the foam pit properly.
I hope she sues. I just hope, straight up, I hope she sues them, because that's just unacceptable. Because what comes of this, what comes of getting this kind of an injury, is that it really limits the things you're able to do in life, and it's really unfortunate. Part of the reason I even make content creation, the reason I even make YouTube videos, is because, to be honest, I can't really do a lot else. Like, I'm not very active, you know. I have trouble, like, going and doing things. I don't know. I'm trying not to make the video too upsetting, but honestly, life's just really hard.
They also just didn't feel like shutting it down after injuries either, because this happened to 2 other people. One of them dislocated their knee in that same pit, but...
I mean, come on, Intel. I don't know what to say. You know, you see something like this, and I want to... You know what I mean? I want to give benefit of the doubt that whoever was working didn't realize they were making such a big mistake, but it's just unacceptable that there was no safety protocols at all, especially if this happened multiple times. You'd think after the first injury, they'd want to, like, you know, make it safe, but I guess no, not an issue. At least not in Intel, at least. At TwitchCon of all places. Come on.
They still kept that shit running. Baffling. But today what I wanted to do is give you an update on this situation, because I've been following it actively, and I went over it on stream a couple days ago, but there's already been a couple new things that have come out. So I just wanted to give everyone the follow-up here. So Adriana Chechik had 1 surgery, which was all the bone fusions, but then she also needed a 2nd surgery. That was yesterday. And then she also posted a video of her trying to walk for the first time. And it's great to see her making some recovery here, but it's also heartbreaking to see how fucking painful it is.
Okay, so I didn't get a brace like that when I was doing my recovery, because that was back when I was 14 years old, about around the time when I started the YouTube channel. I was in 7th grade in middle school, and I remember that I didn't have that cool brace thing that seems to help support that hospitals now have. I mean, I wish I had something like that. I don't think I was even given a walker. I'm pretty sure, I mean, you know, it was so traumatic. Honestly, I tried to block it out, but it's pretty rare when I'm able to relate to something like this. And my memory of going through the process of recovery was, I remember my mom was next to me, and she said, you know, Riley, you got to get up. You know, you got to get up. And I really didn't want to. You know, I was begging her. You know, I was begging her not to let me get up, so that way I could just lay in bed and heal in bed. But the nurse who was there, she was like, no, you know, we need to do physical therapy. We need to get you up and moving so that we can go home. And I was thinking to myself, how can I go home? You know, you just cut me in half, essentially, like down the middle. You know, I wasn't feeling good at all. And I remember they hoisted me up. It took 2 nurses. They hoisted me up. Or it was a nurse and my mom. Again, I can't quite remember. It was a really long time ago. But I remember they hoisted me up, and I had to put my arm over one of the attending nurses. And I remember we would first just walk up and down the hallways, and I'd just be hobbling, you know, the whole time. And then eventually it got to the point where, you know, I couldn't even, you know, I was like collapsing on them. I had to lay in bed. God, I remember I had to put in had a catheter put in, and if you don't know what it is, Google it. But it was just so painful, because I'd have to take it out and put it back in every single time I had to go do the physical, the learning how to walk again, essentially, going through that process, and it sucked. And I remember that eventually it came to the point where I had to be doing the stairs, you know, taking actual steps, not just like shuffling and dragging my feet along. And I remember every single step I took, if I wasn't crying, it felt like I should have been, because I felt like I was going to die every single time as I was going through that process. And it was awful. You know, I couldn't handle it. It wasn't good. And obviously you guys know, you know, if you've been watching the channel for a while, talk about, you know, being having scoliosis and going through getting that fixed and stuff. But I never really talk about the surgeries and stuff. I just felt compelled to talk about it now, because I was hoping to give at least a contributing opinion of someone who's actually been through it. So that way I can hopefully bring awareness and emphasis to just how tragic and incredibly excruciatingly painful it is to go through the recovery process. I'm going to keep doing the video, but I do have more to say about my own journey, and hopefully it'll give some more kind of clearance or light on exactly what's actually going on.
All due to something easily preventable had they actually just taken the precautions necessary to set up the foam pit properly. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you the clips from stream where I go over everything as of a couple days ago, because I think there's a lot of valuable information there, especially from people that are more knowledgeable than I am on foam pits. There's a clip from Josh Strife Hayes, who's a YouTuber I really enjoy, who weighed in on the subject because he had worked at a trampoline park before, so he was able to talk about it on a deeper level. So I'm going to play all those clips for you now, just as like a full update on this whole situation. What's the TwitchCon news? Oh, yeah. So Adriana Chechik, the lady that jumped into the foam pit after winning her match at the TwitchCon, or the Lenovo Intel booth at TwitchCon, she broke her back in 2 places. Her surgery is done now, and I'd like to read her tweet.
Okay, so she is a little different than my case. In my case, what they were doing is and I don't know where she broke her bones at, but I know that when I had my surgery, they had to go from the very top to the very bottom on my like right above my hip. And I think I only have 4 spine bones that are not fused together. The top 2 and the bottom 2 to allow some rotation so I can still use my neck, because my surgery was done with a lot of planning involved and with a lot of care and consideration into where exactly we were going to fuse it so that way I could wouldn't have to wear a back brace every day, because I used to wear a back brace a lot growing up before the surgery. So it was really a life-changing experience to have. But for her, when you're not prepared for it and you don't know what you're expecting, because I've been in and out of the hospital a lot. I mean, by the time I had my spinal fusion, I've been through the hospital so many times for so many different surgeries, and I'm not going to talk about all of those right now, but I can't imagine how horrifying it would be to suddenly have to go through this procedure without any warning or without any forethought, and not realizing just how much of a struggle it's going to be once they get done with you.
Because, man, I tell you what, it's only up from here. Sounds like everything's going to be going great. Here she said, where is it? Surgery went well. It took 5 hours and 30 minutes. More fusions than expected. Bones were completely crushed and nerve damage to my bladder. Hopefully I'll be able to pee again in the near future. No more squirting, probably. Had some bleeding around the bone, but overall good.
Yeah, so like, it's tough, right? Because I need to be careful, what I say, because obviously I don't know exactly what's going on medically, and I can only comment so much based on my memory of over 10 years ago. But based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like they had to do a lot more work than was anticipated, and yeah, I mean, I couldn't pee correctly, I'd have a catheter and stuff. It's brutal, There's a lot of messed up stuff that happens when, you get injured like this, especially. And I can only, I don't know. I was terrified, like when I was in the hospital bed and I was lying there thinking I was dying, even though I wasn't. Like, I logically know I wasn't, but emotionally I felt like I was dying because of how much excruciating pain I was going through for that. It's unfathomable to me, especially even as someone who's gone through it. It's unfathomable to think about someone having to go through that. It's honestly like, it's just not okay. Intel needs to get their shit together. They need to get their fucking shit together.
Legitimately life altering. The rest of her life course has completely changed.
Yeah, I mean, if you were athletic before, you're not going to be athletic anymore. Fortunately, I grew up as a nerd, so I got used to it, growing up with, multiple disabilities and stuff. I'm used to it, but for her, It's just like taking someone's life away, except they have to suffer through life knowing that there's a lot of things they wanted to do, but now they can't do. I mean, hopefully the surgery goes well and she doesn't have any permanent damage. Again, my surgery's still different. Again, I don't know all the details, but the purpose of my surgery was to make it so I could do more things. Her surgery, based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like there is more restrictions put on her and her life, and that is honestly one of the biggest parts of the whole tragedy, is that someone doesn't get to be who they wanted to be.
And now squirting is off the table, I suppose. But she's being lighthearted about it, but on a very serious note, having fusions at her age with an injury that severe, she's looking at a lifetime of fucking misery.
I mean, I think he's exaggerating a little bit here in this instance. I wouldn't say a lifetime of misery. I mean, if they did the surgery well, so that's the thing, right? I don't know how the surgery went. If the surgery went well and it went properly and all the surgeons were good at their job, eventually, she should be able to at least have the same functionality that I do. And I've made the most out of my life, and I'm trying as hard as I can to be hopeful that she'll be able to still pursue things she wants to do, and that she'll still be able to enjoy her life. Because the worst thing about going through a traumatic injury like this, and God, I can't imagine even, like, you go from the pain of the injury to then having to go immediately to surgery and then immediately into recovery, like, because of your awareness, because they're going to knock you out. So you essentially will transition from the pain of being injured, going through the ambulance, all that, and then you wake up and you're still in horrible pain when you wake up from recovery. Just the amount of mental trauma that takes on you, it's unimaginable. Like I'm honestly trying to relate it to my own personal experience of having gone through this surgery, but I'm actually kind of struggling now, and I don't want to be insensitive. I want to make sure I'm respectful to this situation, and I am acknowledging that it is different, certainly very different than this.
I was reading about some people that have had fusions in their back like that. That is something that never goes away, the pain. Her follow-up tweet also was this. In a lot of pain, but feeling hopeful and ready to bring the heat to walk again. Anyone know where I can get my brace blinged or a pink coating for it, as I'll be in it for a long time. I don't even want to read this one out. This is fucking horrifying.
Okay, so it sounds like she's actually going to need a back brace. So when I was little, and they found out I had scoliosis and stuff due to the imbalance, due to me not having one lung, I wore a back brace from I think when I was old enough to wear one at like maybe 2 or 3. I wore that till I was 14 and I got the surgery. And it sucks, you're in it all day. It squeezes on you, trying to keep your back straight. And I remember, like, every time I would take my back brace off, it'd be such a relief because I'd finally be able to relax and stuff. But most of my the only time I could take it off was when I went to sleep. The rest of my day, all my waking existence of just doing things, as a child, I was in a back brace, and it was awful. Shoot, I even have it. I don't have it with me, but maybe I'll get it if someone wants to see it, my old back brace. I'm happy to show that, because that's a medical tool. That shouldn't get me demonetized. I'd love to show you the scar I have on my back, but again, I don't think YouTube would like that. But you could just Google it. You could just look up. It's a scar that goes straight down your back. It's horrible, and it really sucks that she's gonna have to wear a back brace now too. Because the thing is, after my surgery, I didn't need a back brace. I was in pain and I had other issues, which I'm gonna get into in a moment. But I didn't have to wear a brace after the surgery. So to me, that indicates that the amount of trauma that was caused to her back was so severe that even with the corrective surgery, perhaps maybe the surgery wasn't perfect. I mean, it was rushed, it was an emergency, it wasn't planned out. So they probably didn't do as good of a job or as neat of a job as with my own experience, which I don't know how long she's going to have to wear the brace for, but I do hope that it's not permanent.
All from an improperly set up foam pit at a convention.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read out the tweet because... yeah. Well, you can read it. I'm not going to read it. I was going to read it, but you can just look at it on screen right now. You cry the whole time. I remember when I got home from the hospital and I was immediately brought to the couch. I couldn't go up the stairs. I refused to go up the stairs. I could not do it. And I sat in my own filth for a week probably on the couch before my parents forced me to go up 2 flights of stairs to take a shower. And, you know, I always, growing up, tried to downplay what happened. You know, because even after the month of recovery at home, when I went back to school, it was a whole year of me not being able to use a normal backpack. And, like, I'd use, like, a cart or whatever, you know, because I had to roll my backpack around because I couldn't do it. And I think socially it stunted me a bit. I felt more isolated. And, you know, when you go through the PT and stuff, you don't really truly see your injuries. I remember when I did finally get up the stairs to take a shower, I couldn't stop crying because I'd look in the mirror and I saw the entire line of bandages going down my back, and it was red in the middle, probably from trauma, probably bruising, but it looked like blood. You know that scene in X-Men 3 where you see Angel clipping his wings and stuff? It's kind of like that. That's how I felt. You know, when you're truly horrified with your body and how it looks, and you're in pain at the same time. So you're suffering and you're hurting, and you can't even bear to look at yourself because you're so disgusted with what you're seeing that it looks like you're in a horror movie. It's not okay. It's just truly awful.
This is 100% the Lenovo Intel booth fault. 100%. Let me once again try and find this clip. It's from Josh Strife Hayes, who actually spent some time working on these foam pits, so he gives a little deeper insight.
I used to work at a trampoline park. I know a thing or two about foam pit safety because it was drilled into us from the start. Safety in those kind of things is paramount. Like, if someone gets injured, you shut stuff down and you work out why.
Exactly. You shouldn't be allowing these kind of injuries to happen. The amount of suffering that you're inflicting on someone by allowing such lax safety measures is just unheard of. I don't really, I don't know. Now I'm just ranting, right? Now I'm just expressing myself. I wouldn't want anyone to go through what I have to go through. And I know people go through it all the time. Not as often as I'd like to admit, but I know people have to deal with it for one reason or another. Maybe they have scoliosis like me, you know, for whatever reason, or maybe it's an injury, but preventable injury where you cause suffering to such a high degree, I just can't imagine it. The sheer horror of the whole process of getting better.
And you
Which they didn't do.
Your fault,
they kept it up.
Their fault, and what can be done about it immediately. Foam pits were at least 2 meters deep. They had so much foam in them. They had springy floors underneath. They had wood underneath that would bend and break if something really big hit it. So there was still some give there. There was some absorption of all that power. It's had I have been working at that as an event, I'd have said this isn't safe. This is not safe.
Yeah, I think anyone with eyes would have said
that.
I don't know how the fuck this happened.
On top of concrete is going to protect anyone. Now, people have said, oh, they've got a waiver. You know, they can't do anything. They've got a waiver. Waivers don't protect you from negligence.
It's... I talk a lot on the channel about how I want to support small creators, and I want everyone to do the best and be the best that they can. And I think that when big companies are able to get away with these kind of negligent things, that it really shines a light on the fact that even with all of our efforts, sometimes we just can't win. Sometimes the incompetency of corporations harms people in ways that you can't really think of. Sorry. It sucks because I don't want to be making videos where we get real, because that's not the point of the channel. It's all about escapism, but it's pretty rare when someone gets an injury like this, and I don't know. I really hope she sues Intel for this. Come on, please sue them.
I think that's a really important point he makes, and he'd know better than most. I was under the impression her hands were also tied with that waiver, but that is a really good point, that if it's proven to be negligence, which I think anyone who would watch that video would see that it was improperly set up, she could have a legitimate case. Not against TwitchCon, I don't think. It'd have to be going after Lenovo, Intel, I think. Because TwitchCon, it'd be very hard to prove TwitchCon was negligent on that booth since it's not their booth. They just okayed them to be there. So if she does pursue it, it'd have to be going after them. I don't know if she will. I would say it's probably worth it because she's looking at an extremely expensive and very, very, very brutal future. Like caring for that back injury now.
And that's what it's about, right? It's about the future. It's about how you proceed forward in life. And again, I don't know what it's like for her. I just can't imagine going through it again. And when I saw this video the first time, I was just brought back to everything I went through. And I don't mean to make this about me. This should be about her, just to be clear. I'm just trying to relate as a human to a human, because it's worth talking about. It's worth acknowledging that sometimes bad things happen to good people. And I hope she doesn't have a lifetime of suffering. I hope that she's able to recover, and I hope she's able to make something out of herself that she's proud of. I work every day to try and make something I can be proud of. I mean, shoot, I've been making YouTube videos for like, 10 plus years now? More than that, I'm sure. And, I still haven't even achieved my goals. I don't know. I want to do the best that I can to create a positive experience. And I don't know. Sorry, I'm trailing off. Sorry, hold on.